Red, one of the hardest colours to master. Trust me, this was difficult. Welcome friends back to my channel, and in this video you're going to see me do my character sheet in the colour red. Lots of reds, as you could see from the fact that I couldn't fit them in my hand. What I like to usually do is to gather all of the reds into their tones. So I'll collect all of the light tones, put them into a container, the dark tones, put them into one, and keep the mid tones beside me so that I know what I'm working with. Kind of makes it a little bit easier to assess what colours I need to use and what I have left over for this challenge. So as always, I start with my sketch, and I do have some references which I will link in the description. What I did before is I would take maybe one reference of a person that I like the look of and their clothing, and then I'll gather other references for body type and pose, and then I will then just draw that character in that pose. And I found that's really helped with my workflow, but also kind of my creativity, because I find it really difficult to just, imagine stuff. I don't know why, I've always struggled with my creativity in that sense, and it can be quite daunting and it can be stressful to try and just conjure something out of nowhere. That's just not something that I'm very good at. So I get my references from Pinterest to really help with that process, and once I have a general idea of how my character is going to look, then I can use the pose reference. Simple, right? I always use the Prismacolour. I think this colour is obviously red. I can't remember which red it is though, and I usually use that for all of my sketches, but I really should have thought beforehand that using a red pencil for a red marker drawing, probably not a good idea, because I generally place the markers down before I ink, which makes it quite hard then to see your lines. But you know what, it's not going to be a challenge unless I struggle, so here we are. Sometimes when I look back at my work and I watch myself sketching, and I feel like it's both chaotic and structured at the same time, if that makes sense. So I start off really loose, and for me, I feel like that's the best way, because then I'm not going to get bogged down in all the details. But I'm not the kind of person that has confident pencil lines, if that makes sense. I go over them quite a bit, and it's like the scratchy lines. And I know that's not appealing, or it's not deemed appealing for the most part, because, there's lots of little lines and they don't look confident. But I feel like for me, that's the only way I know how to sketch. And I've tried to have confident lines, but I don't know, maybe it's just my style, or maybe I'm just making excuses, who knows. Anyway, back to this. So I like to lay down a colour that is more of my light to mid-tone, I would say. Well, I think this is actually my light tone, because then I can go in and build up the darker tones of the shadows. And then I'll have a really good idea of what I can then blend out if I go back in with a lighter colour. So it can be really hard to control the markers, especially when you're not entirely sure how they're going to look when you put them on the page, because although I do have my kind of swatch sheet, that's old. Like, I need to update that, and it's on a completely different paper, so it's not really relevant. It's just going to give me a general idea. So I like to be kind of cautious when I'm laying down the colour for the first time, because it's essentially the first time I'm going to see that colour. I do go with a slightly lighter colour and then go in with the dark, so that I know that I can blend it out afterwards, which I should probably make a tutorial, or even just how I use my markers, just so I can explain it a little bit better. Do you see now what I mean by, like, there's so many different shades of red. It goes into the kind of deep reds, the vibrant reds, and then it also goes into the pink kind of hues. So this was so difficult to try and use every single one of these markers under one sketch and make it look cohesive, because I wasn't sure if any of these were going to really work well together, but I just had to get it done. I just had to deal with it and try and figure it out. And I don't do any color what is it? When people do those like tests before they go straight in, they'll do a little, what is that word? It'll come to me. I don't do that. I just go straight in and hope for the best. So this is what I mean about being chaotic. I like to plan, but not that much. So then I like to go in and ink, and I don't know why I prefer to, well, I do know why. The reason why I like to lay down the markers first is I'm more confident with the inking part of the process, and I feel like I'm less likely to make a mistake. So if I'm going to make any mistakes, it's going to be when I'm actually putting down the markers. And if I'm going to make a mistake, I'd like to do that early on. So that's why I put down the markers first, and then once I'm happy that it's an acceptable quality, I'll then go in and start inking with my, what is that? The Pilot G2. That's what I'm using at the moment. So I actually have two pens that I like to use. The Pilot G2, which is a slightly finer nib. I think that's a 0.5. And then I also have a Pentel Energel. I think that's a 0.7. And I'll go in with that sometimes if I have a larger area of darker, shadows that I want to line, or, if I'm not too worried about going in with a thicker line. I normally wouldn't use that for the face, but whatever. Here we go. So here I like to just add some line weight to those shadows. I'm just going back in with that pen just to thicken up those lines and just create a little bit more depth to my character. So those are the colours that I have left to use, which are all quite light. I may have made a mistake at the time. I thought, oh God, I have all of these colours to use and they're all quite light. How am I going to make it work? But we make it work. So I go back in and I use the same colours for the skin tones because I want to keep it consistent so that it's the same character. And then whatever is left over, I will have to use on the clothes and make it work. So yeah, this really was quite a challenge for me. I don't know what else to say. It was challenging. And originally I was going to do, I think I was going to do 3 drawings of this character, but I just couldn't. I was like, let's just make it 2. Come on, it's challenging enough as it is. So I'm getting a bit bold and brave here. See how dark that shadow is? I know in the reference the shadow is quite dark. So I figured, okay, let's just lay that colour down, realise it was very dark and try to blend it out. So I think I go back in with that again just to try and make it a little bit more even. Anyway, I feel like I've been talking non-stop about this drawing, which I'm not sure if people enjoy me talking through my process. I mean, please let me know. Just let me know in the comment what you like me to do during these. Should I just leave it as music? Will I talk about my process? Will I talk about my day, or I'll leave that as a separate video? I don't know, just let me know. I mean, I could talk all day, even though I don't have much to talk about because I don't do much. But yeah, let me know what you think. And yeah, I'm getting towards the end of this drawing now, and as you can see, not much thought going into the lines of this shot. I'm just, wherever that line goes is going, and I'll just go with it. Also, just to speak about the character as well, I deliberately pick how I want my characters to look depending on the colour. And red is a very bold, very daring, very just confident colour. So I really wanted to pick a character that looked confident and sure of themselves, and that's exactly where I got that first reference from Pinterest. I saw this woman in this outfit and I was just like, wow, she looks incredible. That's who I want my character to be. So that's my thought process behind how I pick characters for my colours, and you will see the same thing across all my other sketches, that they kind of resonate the colour that they're attached to, I think, personally myself. I have about 6 or 7 more of these to post, which is quite a lot, and I'm hoping most of you guys are interested in these because not only is it showing my marker process, but it's also showing my sketch process too, and how I'm using these references to my advantage to try and create something new from something that already exists, something to help with my creativity. But I'm also hoping that some of these characters actually really, really enjoy how they look, especially the yellow one. And I'm thinking of making it even like an OC, and maybe I'll create some expression sheets, other ways of studying anatomy, but using a character that I have created and already exists. So let me know in the comments what you think of that idea. So I like to go in with highlights at the end with my Sakura Gelly Roll, which is a fantastic pen. It's quite opaque considering it is just a gel pen, so I definitely recommend it. And once I'm done with that, that's my picture complete. So I hope you enjoyed it, and please let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video.